Is it a good idea to trust English spelling? Well, that's what we're going to talk about today. So, yeah, let's jump in. Hey up, mate, and welcome to this episode of the BritSpeakPod. If you're new around here, my name is Dan, and I'm a British English teacher, and I'm here to help you feel more confident when communicating in English. And of course, I'm going to help you understand things like British life, British culture, and of course, British English. So today, the topic of this podcast is it a good idea to trust English spelling? Now, I know that seems weird to trust spelling. Most languages you can kind of trust spelling, but English is a bit tricky, isn't it? So that's why we're going to talk about it today. So in today's episode, we've got a few things that we're going to discuss. The first thing we're going to do, we're going to look at a funny viral video about spelling versus pronunciation in English. A lot of you guys have sent me this video recently. It's just all over, and I thought it'd be good to sort of look at it and break it down and talk a bit about it. We're also going to talk about why is English spelling so weird? It's weird, but why? So we're going to talk about that as well. We're also going to talk about how to make sure that you're pronouncing words correctly in English, right? So, are you doing it correctly, and what's the best ways to make sure you're pronouncing things clearly? And then, of course, I'm going to be answering your questions related to spelling and pronunciation. Makes sense, right? But first, today's question. Now, today's question is, what is the hardest word for you to spell or pronounce? Put your answers down in the live chat if you're watching it live, or you can leave a comment if you're on Spotify or whatever. Let me know what's the hardest word for you to spell or pronounce, and we're going to talk about it at the end. But first, I've got a quick message for you. Are you still struggling to feel confident when speaking in English, even after all of them hours you've spent studying? Do you still feel stuck in conversations like you just can't find the words you're looking for? Well, trust me when I tell you this, mate. I know the frustration, but I also know the longer you wait to deal with the problem, the worse the problem is going to get. But it doesn't need to be this way. For less than $1 a day, you can get access to the BritSpeakMates community, which will help you solve these problems. You'll get access to daily speaking challenges and the 24/7 live practice room. You'll get a community of other people just like you to help you stay motivated. You're going to be able to get answers to your questions from me and other community members. And you're also going to be able to get weekly speaking practice lessons if you go for the VIP tier. So for just $19 a month, you'll gain all of that so you can finally start feeling confident when you're communicating in English. All you've got to do to sign up is go to the link in the description or visit britspeak.co/BritSpeak-mates. That's britspeak.co/BritSpeak-mates. And I hope to see you in there soon. But for now, back to the episode. Good stuff. So today we're going to start by looking at a proper famous video. It's a really funny video by a British comedian called Michael McIntyre, and he's done a few things about British English and English language before that you might have come across, but this is his most recent thing, and I've seen a bit of it. I haven't seen the whole thing, but I want to kind of break it down with you guys, so we're going to take a look at that today. So first of all, we're just going to kind of watch it through a little bit, and I'm going to stop when I think something's interesting and we'll break it down. We're going to talk about what he's saying and why it's happening. And we're also going to talk a little bit about things like his accent and that sort of stuff. So let me get this party started.
The English language was created by English people. I don't know when, but we decided to get letters to form words so we can communicate, but we also decided to sprinkle, for no apparent reason, letters within these words. Silent. Shh.
Okay. So yeah, I've often wondered this is like silent letters in English. How did this happen? At some point we got together and we decided, okay, we say this word. How are we going to write this word down? And then we've ended up with all these letters that we don't actually say, like, for example, thumb. We don't say b. It's silent, you know. So I've always thought that's a bit weird. But yeah, he obviously thinks it's weird as well. So let's see what he's got to say about it.
Why? Like the word hour, for example. Why is the word hour spelt with an H? Why is there an H? The silent H. Nobody has ever said, I'll see you in an hour. I'll see you in an hour.
Yeah, like there's some words that we choose to skip H at the beginning, depending on the accent. Like for me, I'm from Yorkshire, and my natural accent, we kind of drop the H at the beginning of words like hello, hotel, horrible. I don't pronounce hello, hotel, or horrible. But hour, I think everybody skips the H. I think if you look in the dictionary, it won't have a H at the beginning of the word. Because if somebody said hour, it's weird. It's hard to say. Hour. Yeah, so he's got a good point already.
I'm just going to pick up the sandwich. I'll be back in a hour.
Sandwich. A sandwich. Yeah, I don't know, like sand... Because some people will drop the D in sandwich. Sandwich. It'd be like an M. Sandwich. But sandwich, you will hear some people say sandwiches. But I don't. Sandwich. It's like a M sound in the middle. And hour. Yeah, crazy. All right, cool.
Half a hour. Even half has an L in it. It's like half a hour.
Half a hour. Yeah, fair enough. Why is there an L? Half. Half. Yeah, we nobody would say that. Nobody would say half.
How long is the journey? About half a hour to a hour. The sandwich shop is half a hour away. It's a waste of everybody's time.
Yeah, it's a good point. Like, why are these letters here? If you have to write the letters down and they don't get pronounced, why are they there? It's just a waste of ink, innit? So, yeah, he's got a good point.
Subtle. Would anybody object if it was spelled S-U-T-L-E? Not a single person would. But there's a B in the middle going, shh, just ignore me. Just ignore me.
Yeah, the B is like, yeah, why am I here, mate? Can I not just go and join a word like butter? Like, why am I here? Yeah, and I think at some point we'll end up just getting rid of all the silent letters because at some point in the future, we'll end up just going like, all right, enough's enough. This is stupid. Let's just spell the things the way that we say them. But that leads to a bunch of other problems. But at some point, they'll do it, I reckon. So, all right.
I've been left here, left behind. I don't know. I was destined for another word, baboon, but here I am.
Baboon.
How I long to be in the word baboon where I have a purpose.
Yeah, man. Like, do you reckon at some point there was a thing where they were like, right, you get paid per letter. The guy who's writing the dictionary, for each letter that he writes, he gets paid 1 penny. So he's like, mate, I'm not getting paid enough here. So he just started banging letters in, like subtle and muscle, and thumber. He's just like, I'm getting paid, mate. I'm going to put as many extra letters in. And then he got to Q, as in to line up, and he's like, that's just one letter. I'm not having that. Q-U-E-U-E. Ching, ching, ching. I reckon that's what's gone on. All right, cool, fair enough.
Like all those words that should begin with N, but have a K of all the letters. Why would a K be silent? Knickers. Why is it knickers?
I should also point out that knickers with the silent K is kind of a British word that means like underwear, specifically women's underwear, pants, right? Because Americans say pants as in trousers. But for British people, pants is like underwear that goes under the trousers, and specifically women tend to call their pants knickers. So yeah, that's where that comes from.
So I've been thinking about this, as you can probably tell, and I think we should have a day. We should have a day.
All right.
Silent letter day. They all come out to play.
I'd love it, actually. Like, if everybody just had to pronounce the things the way they were written for a day, which is where I think he's going to go with this.
Be on a Wednesday.
Wednesday. Yeah, this is a weird one. When I was in school, I could never spell this word correctly because it didn't make sense to me. I'm like, Wednesday. Why is there a Ned? You know, Wednesday. Like, what is this? So when I was young and I was writing this word, I would always in my head say Wednesday so I could spell it correctly. But yeah, Wednesday. What? Why?
Sometime in the autumn. In the autumn. In the autumn.
Autumn. Yeah. So why is there an N at the end of autumn? Autumn. It probably comes from an older word, autumnal or something. But yeah, autumn. Okay.
The autumn. Could be in February. I haven't heard this thing.
Yeah, February is a weird one. Because nobody would say February. February. Febu. It's like a U sound. February. There's no reason for an R in the middle of that word. And I bet loads of people spell that wrong.
February or the autumn. And we will spend the day together, families together, talking.
Talking, okay, with the L.
Talking.
Walking.
And climbing. Knitting, a lot of knitting.
This is going to get more and more ridiculous, I reckon. So we got talking with the missing L, walking with the missing L, going for walks, and then climbing. So climbing, but we've also got L and B and all sorts of things in there that God knows what's going on with that one.
People save up their knitting to do a
Knitting,
silent letter
yeah.
day. And the knife is the only cutlery that you're allowed to use, the knife.
Knife, yeah, and with the magic E on the end, which nobody ever says. It's not knifey. Knife. Knifey, yeah, that'd be a good way to say it, I think.
No other cutlery is allowed on silent letter day. Food is buffet style.
Okay, this is fair enough because it's from French, isn't it? Buffet is a French word that I think this is one of the problems with British spelling is like we just took a load of words from other languages like Germanic languages and French and stuff. We kept the spelling, but we're like, we're not having that pronunciation nonsense. We'll do his own pronunciation, but we keep spelling for some reason. Like, all right, if you say so. Weird, innit? Proper weird.
Go along with your knife. There's salmon and swordfish.
Swordfish. Yeah, like, why is there a W in sword? Sword.
Sandwiches and yogurt.
But that's another word that's not British, is it? I think yogurt is probably not a British word. Yogurt. All right.
Yogurt. And you use your knife. All the flavors are very subtle flavors. And the gnome.
Yeah, like gnome. You know, like it's like a thing in the garden. Like a little statue of a little dwarf thing with a hat. I don't even know why they exist, but they exist. And a gnome, spelled Gnome, gnome. Why? I guess gn is kind of like this nasal N from some weird spelling or something, but the spelling is weird and the thing itself is weird, so it don't really make that much sense, but all right.
Will be the symbol of silent letter day. Like Father Christmas. At Christmas, the gnome. Everybody gives each other a gnome to celebrate. Happy silent letter day. I got you a gnome. I kept it hidden in the cupboard for...
Cupboard is such a weird one. Cupboard. If you were to like spell it out, it would be C-U-B-B. Cub. But it's actually spelled C-U-P-B. Cupboard. And we don't say board, not cupboard. 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 It's not even close, is it? Like, come on.
I wrapped it up. Do you like it? I wrapped it up. I cut the wrapping paper with skizzers. I use skizzers.
To be fair, when I was growing up, my mum would often say, Dan, have you seen the skizzers? Like, joking. We know it's scissors, but have you seen skizzers anywhere? No. Maybe they're in the drawer.
Wrapping paper. I'm so sorry, I forgot. I didn't realise. Is it really silent letter day? Is it honestly silent letter day? You mean honestly? Yes, it is honestly. You should have known.
Shulled. Shulled of Canoan. I like that.
Never listen. You'll never listen. I'm not giving you a gnome. I'm sorry. I'm taking it back to the shop.
You never listen. Can you imagine? Listen to this.
I've kept the receipt. I've kept the receipt. And at the end of the day...
Receipt is another weird one.
We will celebrate with champagne.
What is it? It's Futurama, I think. There's a sketch on Futurama where Zap Brannigan is trying to seduce Leela. And he's like, oh, would you like the rest of the champagne? It's pronounced champagne. Oh, God. And that's right. Hey, it's French. I think champagne's French, isn't it? So, yeah.
Can I have you some champagne? Happy Saint Valentin Day. Just a drop. Maybe just a splash. Oh, there's a knock at the door. Who could that be? Oh, it's Chloe and Isla. Sorry, Chloe and Isla. My old friends from school. Friends from school. Fascinating. Grab a knife. Help yourself to lasagna. There's some lasagna.
To be fair, I call it lasagna as well, like for joking. Like, what's for dinner? Lasagna. All right, safe. Lasagna.
And at the end of the day, when we are knackered...
British, proper British, knackered being British slang for very, very tired, you know. Very, very tired, very, very exhausted. I'm knackered, but spelt with a K, so knackered.
We go to sleep at 1/2 the hour.
All right, fair enough. That's pretty funny. Now, I enjoyed quite a lot of that. I think there's some accent stuff in there as well that's worth talking about, but that were pretty funny. And it goes to show that British spelling is somewhat strange, isn't it? It's a bit weird. But yeah, I think it comes down to like British spelling is one thing, and then British pronunciation is like, oh, it's a whole different thing, right? So it kind of begs the question then, why is English spelling and English pronunciation so bloody weird, right? Like, why is this a thing? Well, to be honest, I've got some thoughts about why it's so weird. So one of the weird things about, you know, the difference between pronunciation and spelling is silent letters, like we've just seen. Now, we've got some things that you need to be aware of. First of all, we've got silent letters that are just silent in the word itself, like Michael McIntyre said, hour, you know, and knife, not knife, and muscle, not muscle, you know what I mean? Wednesday, and Q, which, you know, there's 5 letters in the word Q, Q-U-E-U-E. We just pronounce one of them, Q, at the beginning. So, yeah, silent letters make things pretty difficult. The other thing is there's so much inconsistency when it comes to spelling versus pronunciation, right? So, for example, we're all aware of O-U-G-H and that whole fiasco, right? So, you know, words that have got this O-U-G-H sound in it. For example, through. Okay, so it's oo. No. Though. Okay, so it's O. But cough. So it's F, like, and rough. Now it's uff. Like, what is this? Why is the same spelling different in different words? That's a problem. That's something that makes it weird. We've also got individual letters that have different sounds. If you consider the word Australia, there's 3 A's in Australia, but there's 3 different sounds. They've all got a different sound. Australia. O-A-A. What is that? That's so stupid. And we've also got where 2 different words are spelled completely differently, but they've got the same pronunciation, like no, as in understand, and no, as in I don't want to. One is spelled K-N-O-W, and the other one is spelled N-O, but they pronounced exactly the same. What? Why? We've also got words that are spelled the same with 2 different pronunciations, like lead and lead. Lead as in the metal, you know, like in a pencil or whatever, and lead as in to guide somebody. Or wind and wind. Wind as in wind something up, and wind as in, the wind. They're spelled exactly the same, but there's two different pronunciations. Like, what the hell? How has that happened? So we've got a lot of inconsistency when it comes to spelling versus pronunciation. So no wonder people I work with in private lessons and stuff just get frustrated with English pronunciation and spelling. How are you supposed to make sense of this? Absolute bloody nonsense, isn't it? Another thing that makes it difficult is regional differences. Now, when I say regional differences, let's just talk about England for a minute. Inside the UK or England or whatever, there's so many different accents and we all do things differently. Like, there's no specific correct way. Most people assume the RP accent is the correct way, but there's nothing that's more correct than anything else, yeah? So we've got things like glottal stops. Now, a glottal stop is where we choose to kind of not pronounce the T at the middle and end of words. The meme example of this is bottle of water, or British, or butter. You know that tongue twister? Betty Butter bought a bit of bitter butter. In my accent, that's just noises. Betty bought a bit of butter. Like, are you all right, mate? So glottal stops. Some people will pronounce the T's, some people won't. That's confusing. We've got a lot of accents in the UK that are non-rhotic, which means we don't pronounce the R after a vowel sound. So we don't say car, or we don't say brother or mother. We don't pronounce the R. So it's car, mother, brother. All right, if you say so. And we've also got the vowel shift as well. I don't know if you guys know this, but there's something in the UK called the Bath trap split, or the Bath trap split, if you prefer. Now, you can basically draw a line across the middle of the country, and everyone that's above the line will use a short ah sound. Like in the north, we'll say bath and trap. They have the same sound. But in the south, they'll say bath and trap. They've got a long R sound. This is a vowel shift. We've also got the same thing with foot and strut. Now, in the north, they are the same, foot and strut. So we say bus and love and foot. But in the south, they'll say love and bus and strut. So that just makes it complicated. And actually, it's so complicated, I've developed something to help you understand this. So I've got a Navigating British Accents guide, and it's like 5 British pronunciation techniques that will help you understand different accents. And you can get it right now. The link is in the description. So if you want to get it, it's totally free. Just go down there and click the link. It's called Navigating British Accents. Check it out. Now, another thing that makes this different, not just regional differences in the UK versus US. Because not only did we get the spelling, America came along, we're like, you guys should use English as well. And they were like, all right, but we're going to change it a bit. We're not having you. We're not doing that. C-O-L-O-R. Oh, so not C-O-L-O-U-R. Nope, not doing that. We're having no U's. All right, fair enough. What else are you going to change? Well, at the end of words, you guys have R-E, like theatre or centre. We're not having that. We're having ER, and we're going to pronounce that R every single time. Theatre. Right. If you say so, mate. And then we'll be like, fair enough. Is there anything else? Yep, we're not having vitamins. They're vitamins. Are you sure? It seems like it should be vitamin. Nope, vitamin, mate. We're having vitamin. All right, what about that? These like cans. What are these made out of? This kind of material. Ah, you mean aluminum. Do I now? Not aluminium. No, aluminum. So, yeah, cheers, America. You made it more difficult. I actually probably simplified it a bit, but I'm not having it. Not on my watch, America. But, yeah, UK versus US spelling. Bit of a nightmare, innit? And then all of this happened. All of these problems exist because of historical issues. English it's had a weird history, English. Basically, English was 3 different Germanic languages dressed up in a French coat and we called it English. That's basically what happened. And so you've got like Old English, you've got French, you've got Latin and Greek and Germanic languages in there. And each of those languages have got their own pronunciation patterns and spellings. And we just put it all in a bag, just like, like British Museum does. We just went to other countries and picked it up and put it in a bag, brought it back to England and pretended it were ours. And that's why we've got this ridiculous thing with the spelling, because although pronunciation got somewhat standardized, spelling didn't. Spelling were just like, oh, just leave it. It'll be all right. Don't worry about it. And that's why we end up with these situations where, British spelling or English in general, English spelling and pronunciation doesn't make much sense. So as an English learner, it's pretty tricky. But like I said, if you're trying to get a bit more of a better idea about British accents and stuff, you can get the Navigating British Accents guide for free. The link is in the description. All you got to do, go down there, click it, put your email in, I'll send it you. And it'll tell you everything you need to know about like glottal stops and non-rhotic accents and bath trap splits and all that good stuff. So make sure you check it out. So I think it is weird. And once you accept it's weird, it's like, great, I understand it's weird. Now what? And that kind of leads us to the question, if I can't trust the spelling, how can I be sure that I'm pronouncing things correctly, right? Because a big problem a lot of people have when it comes to pronouncing things in English is they're worried about pronouncing things incorrectly and maybe making a mistake. One of the common things is people say bitch instead of beach because they're not sure exactly which sound they're supposed to make, right? And that is a problem. But today I've got 5 tips for you that you can kind of use to make sure that you're pronouncing things correctly, okay? So tip number 1, and probably one of the most important tips any English learner can, take on board, learn the IPA. IPA stands for International Phonetic Alphabet, right? And basically what the IPA is, it's a bunch of symbols. Some of them look like the letters you already know, but we've got a bunch of little symbols, right? I think there's something like 47 or 48. I can't remember off the top of my head, but there's a bunch of these little symbols, right? And each symbol, instead of representing a letter of the alphabet, represents a sound that you make in English. So, there's a sound for th, and there's also a sound for th, and there's a sound for all these different things that we don't have a way of writing down, but we've got a symbol for it in the IPA, right? And so imagine it's like the alphabet of sounds. There's all these sounds we can make, and each sound has got a symbol. So by learning those symbols, you understand what the correct sound to make is. Whereas spelling will not show you the correct sound to make. It's like, good luck, mate. Have a go. Everyone's a winner, aren't they? Just try your best. But IPA will tell you exactly which sound you're supposed to make. So it's a good idea to learn that. And if you're not sure where to start with that, keep paying attention because I've got something that will point you in the right direction. Now, it also removes the confusion caused by spelling. Is it wind or wind? The IPA will tell you. Do we pronounce the T in this word or the K in this word? IPA will tell you. It basically gets rid of the whole mess with OUGH, gets rid of all of it. You don't need to worry about it because the IPA will just tell you which sound to make. So it's really useful. And most dictionaries, whether you're using like American dictionaries like, Collins or Merriam-Webster or whatever, whatever the dictionaries are in each country, English-speaking countries, Cambridge or Oxford for me, almost all of them use IPA transcripts to show pronunciation of words, So when you look up the word, there'll almost always be an IPA transcript that tells you exactly how to pronounce that word, right? So that's really important. Now, it also shows you other things that you can't pick up from spelling. Like, for example, it'll show you how many syllables the word has. It'll show you things like which syllables should be stressed and if there's any advanced techniques like dark L's or non-rhotic R's or whatever. It'll show you these things, which spelling can't do. So if you're worried about pronunciation, just basically forget spelling altogether. and just worry about IPA transcriptions, yeah? For example, let's look at some basic transcriptions, yeah? If you look at this word, colonel, no, it's colonel. We can see we've got this long E sound, which is like the 3. And then you can see the point in the middle. That shows that we've got 2 different syllables. And there's a little apostrophe before the first one. That means that's the stress. So colonel, like that. Going back to what we said earlier about Australia. So for me, it's 4 sounds. Australia, right? And it shows me that even though there's 3 A's in this word, there isn't. One's an O, one's an A, and one's a. So there you go. Australia. And you can see the apostrophe is before tray. So I know that that's where the stress is. Australia. Good. And here we go. Some O-U-G-H. No, actually, through. Oh, sorry, though. I misread it. Though. Through. Thought. Tough. But for me, even though that says tough, my accent, that becomes tough. But whatever. So yeah, focus on IPA, not the spelling. That's tip number 1. Now, sure, you learn IPA. That's cool. That's all well and good. But what should I do with that knowledge? Well, step 2 is to make sure you're checking the IPA transcriptions in dictionaries. Whenever you're learning a new word, you shouldn't just learn the meaning of that word. You should be learning the pronunciation at the same time. And the way you would do that is you go check a dictionary. Almost all of the online dictionaries have IPA transcript for words. I recommend the Cambridge Learner's Dictionary. That's the one I use all the time. It's really good. And when you go there, underneath the word, there's almost always, at least the UK transcription with a little speaker so you can hear it. But there's almost always the American transcription if it's different. So not only that, you're getting both versions, the American and the British pronunciation, right? So look, don't just learn the word, learn the transcription and learn the pronunciation while you're at it. It's going to save you a lot of time. For example, I hear a lot of people say recipe or recipe or whatever weird pronunciation of this word. But if you look at the transcript, you can see that it's recipe. And you wouldn't know that by looking at recipe. You wouldn't know. But if you look at the transcription, you'll know very easily. Another one, Wednesday. But if you look at the transcription, you can see, Wednesday. And cupboard. If you look at it, you're like, no, cupboard. All right, much easier. Once I understand the situation, life's a lot easier. So just look up in the dictionary when you're not sure. Okay, so we're going to learn the IPA transcript and we're going to look up new words in the dictionary, right? It kind of makes sense. But what do I do then? Well, I strongly recommend spending some time practicing individual sounds, right? Because some sounds in English probably don't exist in your language, right? So you don't have the muscle memory to make those sounds correctly. Like you don't really know where to put your tongue or how to control the airflow or where you should be moving the muscles in your mouth and your face. So you're going to have to learn. It's like going to the gym. You can't just look at somebody else lifting up weights and be like, oh, well, I've lifted a box up before. I'm sure I can do it. Like, no, it's different. So you got to actually do it and practice and build that muscle memory, right? Big problems that people often have. Like generally, each language has got its own difficulties, but ones that come up more often than not with people I work with is B and V, because they are different. B, V, B, V. They are different. Berry, very, berry, very, very, berry. You know what I mean? Another one, probably the number 1 is the TH sound, because we've got voiced and voiceless. So voiced as in this. You can feel your vocal cords. This. But we've also got voiceless as in think. There's no vocal cords in think. So maybe you need to practice using the vocal cords and not using the vocal cords and putting your tongue in the right place for this. Another common problem is the R sound, because in some things it's non-rhotic. So I don't say car or car or brother, because we don't do it. And especially we don't roll the R like car, brother. We don't do that, right? So getting used to the non-rhotic R, or, rhotic R in some cases, depends on which way you look at it, but that can cause a lot of trouble, especially from languages that hard pronounce the R. It's hard to let that go. You know what I mean? Another big one is like the long and short vowels, like I versus E, or versus whatever it is. Another one, and speaking of vowels, we've got what a lot of people call the lazy vowel. And it's often called a schwa. It's this sound, like in banana, this sound. It doesn't exist in a lot of languages, like an unstressed vowel sound that's really common in British English. So spend time learning specific things. Like, I think maybe you're not sure which sounds exist and which sounds don't. So what I ended up doing last year, I made a 7-day pronunciation practice email course, right? And the idea is every day you get an email with materials and videos and audio and everything you need to practice a specific part of pronunciation. Like day 1 is all about IPA, and day 2 is learning vowels. And then day 3 is like diphthongs, and day 4 is voiced, and day 5 is vowel, and so on and so forth. And it gives you everything you need to practice individual sounds. Now, it's still available. So if you're actually interested in getting hold of that, you can go to the link in the description. It's called the Pronunciation Practice Power Pack, or maybe it's just called Power Pack. I can't remember what I called it, but it's $29, 7 days worth of email practice delivered directly to your email. Everything you need to practice individual sounds. So yeah, check it out if you're interested. I think it'll help you narrow down where you're having trouble, okay? So you can also do shadowing. I mean, we did a lesson last time about shadowing. It's good for practicing individual sounds as well. So yeah, check that out. And now number 4, syllable stress. Stress is really important in English. I'm not talking about how you feel when you try and talk English, like stress, like anxiety. No, I'm talking about the emphasis that we put on different parts of the word, right? Because English is a stress-based language. So rhythm is very important, and it depends on using stress correctly. Sorry, I've got hiccups. It depends on using stress correctly, right? So if you're putting the stress in the wrong place, the rhythm is going to sound very weird, and it's going to sound really unnatural. But if you don't know where the stress is supposed to go, your rhythm is going to be off, right? So it's very important to learn that, because a lot of languages are phonetic. Like Japanese is phonetic. Each sound gets the same amount of stress, basically. English is not that way, my friend. So you got to learn this kind of thing. And stress can also help people understand exactly what you're trying to say. Like, we've got a bunch of words in English that are 2 syllables long, and there's a noun version and there is a verb version. And the way that we tell them apart is which syllable is stressed. Like, for example, in the 70s and 80s, you wanted to listen to your favourite album, you'd buy a record, a vinyl record, the big black things, yeah? So that one's record. But right now, I'm recording a podcast. Record is the verb. Record is the noun. That's how we tell them apart. Same with dessert, the... what is it called? The desert. Go on. Sand. That kind of thing. I couldn't remember the word sand. So, a very, very dry place. That's what I'm looking for. Desert. Not dessert as in ice cream. Desert. But to desert something, desert as in to abandon it, is almost like ice cream. So like dessert, like we've got a lot of mess there. And I think that correct stress will help people understand what you're trying to say, yeah? And I think a big part of natural English speech is learning to link sounds together. Instead of going to the shop, I'm gonna shops. Got this kind of flow. And knowing how to link words together depends on where the stress is. And if you don't know where the stress is, you can't do that. And you will end up saying every word individually. It sounds a bit robotic, doesn't it? And tip number 5, learn weak and strong forms. Now, in English, we've got a bunch of function words. They don't really have much of a meaning, but they're like grammatical words that we use as part of grammar rules, right? And a lot of these words have got 2 pronunciations. We've got the strong form and the weak form. And I'll give you some examples of what I mean. I'll come to the examples in a second. Using strong forms only makes you sound a bit weird, a bit robotic. But if you mix up the strong and the weak forms, depending on where the stress is in the sentence, it helps flow naturally. And yeah, I'd practice shadowing to get the rhythm of the weak forms correct. But I'm talking about weak forms for words like to. We'll say to. For example, I'm going to the shops. Not I'm going to the shops, I'm going to the shops. But to, we could use it for like emphasis, like, I want you to listen. Like that, okay? Other common words, and. How many times have you heard a native speaker say, fish and chips, fish and chips, bread and butter, bread and butter. We're not saying fish and chips, bread and butter. It's a bit weird, right? So often we'll get as the weak form, but the strong form might be used when we're trying to clarify something. No, I want fish and chips, not just fish. I want fish and chips. I'm emphasizing, I'm clarifying what I mean, right? Another example is for, as in, this is for you, not for you. This is for you. Weak, for you. Or I can say, this is for emphasis, right? So that was a bit meta, that one, weren't it? So yeah, this is for emphasis. Put stress on it. So we've got weak and strong forms, and those 5 tips will really help you get better pronunciation. And like I said during that, if you want to improve your pronunciation, do a bit of practice, check out my 7-day email practice for pronunciation. $29, link is in the description. It'll help you understand IPA and practice individual sounds and learn word stress and all that good stuff. It's available right now, so check it out. And now we're going to look at some of your guys' questions and some of the things that we talked about earlier. And I asked you right at the beginning, what are some words that are difficult for you to pronounce, right? Maybe because the spelling is weird or the pronunciation is weird. And the first one, I'm just going to make this a little bit bigger on the screen. There we go. Yeah, thanks for watching as always in the chat. And vegetables. This is a hard word. Because vegetables. So this kind of vegetable is, I think I pronounced this word wrong, probably. Because I'd say vegetable, which is 4 sounds. But a lot of people say vegetable, 3 sounds. So probably I say that a bit weird now that I think about it. But yeah, it's a strange one. This is why everybody just says veggies. We try and not say the word vegetable. It's too hard. We'll just say veggies. But good one. All right. Tefo, another one that's always in the chat. Cheers for watching, mate. Peculiarity. If something is peculiar, it's a peculiarity. But yeah, you got that hard peculiarity. So the stress peculiarity. Yeah. That was a tough one. Saito's in the channel says GHT. So like night and fright and fight. Almost always just t, right? But yeah, a tough one. Let's have a look. We've also got another comment from Tefo. I reckon being an auditory learner is the solution of all of that. Hearing a word and then pronouncing it as you hear it, considering all the different accents. Yeah, I think all depends on where you're picking up words from. If you enjoy listening, audiobooks, podcasts, YouTube videos, whatever, you're more than likely going to hear the pronunciation before the spelling, right? So that kind of person is going to then struggle when they have to spell words. But in this day and age, it's much easier to spell words because your phone just corrects it for you most of the time, right? We're kind of lazy these days when it comes to spelling. But if it's the other way around, if you're a reader and you get a lot of your new vocabulary through reading books or whatever, then that's going to be really difficult when it comes to pronounce the words because there's no autocorrect for speaking, is there? Not yet, anyway. Maybe one day. But yeah, good point. So yeah, really, really good podcast today. I hope you enjoyed it. So once again, I just want to remind you that the free thing you can get is called the Navigating British Accents Guide. It's a free guide. It details 5 pronunciation techniques that British people use in different accents and how they work and what they are. It's worth checking out. But yeah, thank you very much for listening to this podcast today. I hope you enjoyed it. And next week, I'll be back again with another episode. But until then, look after yourself and I'll catch you in the next one. See you there.